Hi, I'm Justin and welcome back to Just Shaves. For this video, I've got a review and spotlight of a razor that I've been just dying to get my hands on. This is the OliWorks ORITE Titanium. Comes in this fantastic box. This is a three-piece razor and they actually include three different base plate options as well. So they include a mild, a medium, and an aggressive plate with this razor. A little bit about this razor, made by the OliWorks company, a small family business out in Arizona. The Meteorite is their, really their flagship three-piece razor. They use the same design, but they now make it in a few different metals. I think they initially released the stainless steel version of this back in October 2024. My default preference is for lighter razors as a head shaver, so I still use some stainless steel and brass razors from time to time, but at the time that this released in stainless steel, I just wasn't in the market for a stainless steel razor at the time. Nevertheless, I was following the reviews, reading up on the Meteorite on a bunch of forums, and it was, pretty much met with a number of rave reviews, and I was keeping my eyes on it and was considering it down the road. And then February 2025, earlier this year, they actually released the aluminum version of it, which again has the exact same design, but is just made out of lighter aluminum. So as soon as I saw this get released, I jumped on it right away. I just happened to be browsing their website, and the first day or two they happened to release it, and I jumped on it. And then since then I really put it through its paces and compared it side by side with a number of other aluminum razors, and at the end of the day this ended up being my favorite aluminum razor. So this one, for $70, they included three different base plates, a mild, a medium, and an aggressive. And that was really one of my favorite things about this razor, is that it included the variety in the base plates, and each of the three base plates worked pretty well for me. So the medium one, I kind of consider that to be my daily driver range, but then the mild one has a smaller gap, smaller blade exposure, and allows me to kind of intuitively shave a little bit quicker because there's less blade field, yet it's still efficient enough that I'm able to get the shave results I'm looking for at the end of the day. And then conversely, the aggressive plate, while having a larger gap, larger exposure, is still comfortable enough that I'm also able to use that daily if I wanted to as well. The only downside is I need to move a little bit slower with the aggressive plate. But that again was one of my favorite things, is just the fact that all three of the base plates work so well for me. I'd imagine for the average person, maybe one of them doesn't work, but I still think the variety is going to be able to hit home for a number of people. So real quick, I'll go into the designs features. I've been holding up the aluminum one, but I'll focus this review on the titanium version. Blade gap, blade exposure. So the mild plate, I did jot it down. So I had it at 0.51 millimeter blade gap, and then a 0.07 blade exposure. So their mild plate still has a positive exposure, small enough gap that you can move pretty comfortably with it. Moving on to the medium one has a 0.76 millimeter blade gap, and then a blade exposure jumps up to 0.14. So on paper, still in the medium aggressive, but definitely bumped up in terms of efficiency once you get to the medium. And then the aggressive one, on paper I was initially scared of it, and I did a first review of the aluminum version on the aggressive plate on film, and I was just blown away at how smooth it was. But it has a 1.02 millimeter blade gap, so over a millimeter of blade gap, and then blade exposure is 0.21. So on paper, aggressive is very highly efficient, yet it's very smooth and comfortable shaver. So again, one of my favorite things about this design is I think they got the blade gap and blade exposure just right on the three plates. Another one of my favorite things is this handle. It is on the shorter side. I forget the measurements of it off the top of my head. And then all these grooves right here are actually, very detailed machining. So it's not knurling, but it's actually machined to get this very intricate design that has fantastic grip. And also these knobs kind of right here on the bottom and at the top make it very easy to take the razor apart whenever you're done using it, and also very grippy while you're shaving. Moving on to the head design, very aggressive bend in the blade, very rounded top cap, What the rounding on the top cap does is it minimizes the amount of contact on your skin from both the safety bar and the top cap, and allows this razor to glide better than pretty much any other razor out there, in my opinion. Also, they cover the blade tabs, which is very important for me as a head shaver. And then the safety bar kind of angles back, so it's really just covering the blade. It makes it just a little bit easier to know exactly where the blade is when you're shaving. That's pretty much it in terms of the specs. Across the different metal types, the main characteristic, again with this being the same design for both stainless steel, aluminum, titanium, main difference is going to come down to weight. So the aluminum one comes in at around 40 grams, which is about on par with most other aluminum razors. The stainless steel is a bit on the heavier side, 114 grams, I believe. And then this titanium one's kind of right in the middle at 64 grams. So definitely on the lighter end still, and that's going to be consistent with really any titanium razor. So titanium kind of falls right smack in the middle between stainless steel and aluminum in terms of weight. And then while you're using it, definitely feels on the lighter side. So if you were to compare this to stainless steel, significant weight reduction. And then comparing it to aluminum, overall still both very lightweight. This just adds a little bit of substance to the hand. And if you were to compare the performance, I would say that a titanium typically is going to be very similar in shape performance to aluminum. The difference you're getting is kind of on those intangibles that are hard to measure, which in my opinion still count for quite a bit. So feel in the hand, it just feels more substantial, feels more premium. And then what you're really paying for is the durability of titanium. So completely rust and corrosion resistant. It's also one of the harder metals out there. So if you were to have a drop or a scrape, it's going to be able to hold up pretty well. So don't go dropping your expensive titanium razors, but if you were to, it's going to survive much better than aluminum would, or might even be able to resist scratches better than stainless steel would. Now, I'd say titanium is not inherently better than stainless steel or aluminum. It just has its own unique properties, especially with the weight, I think is the biggest difference. Like it's kind of at a sweet spot in between aluminum, stainless steel. A lot of people think stainless steel's too heavy for their liking, but then aluminum sometimes feels too light. This is going to put you kind of right in the middle. Overall, I would say the premium you're paying for really comes down to how tough this metal is and how difficult it is for these companies to machine it properly. And really that cost kind of just gets transferred over to the razor, but titanium in and of itself isn't inherently better. I would say that performance is gonna be very similar to aluminum razors, just with that same lightness. It's just gonna feel a little bit better in the hand, in my opinion, just with the little bit of added weight to it. So if you're the type that you like heavier razors, like you have a bunch of stainless steel razors and you love them, titanium may or may not be an upgrade for you. So that's just something to keep in mind. If you like lighter razors like I do, I have a number of aluminum razors, a couple of other titanium razors, then titanium's probably going to be worth the price point for you. I would generally say, just given the price of titanium, I wouldn't immediately recommend it to any of my friends. Like you shouldn't just go out and buy a titanium razor, because it being made out of titanium doesn't guarantee that it's going to work super well for you. At the end of the day, what matters more is really comes down to the design of the razor, how they design the razor head, the gap, the exposure, and whether or not that's going to be in alignment with your personal preference. And if it does, like in this case, the aluminum, it was spot on for me. Now this is a significant upgrade for me, just in terms of the feel in the hand. I will jump into the pricing really quickly. I know this is going to be a little bit of a sticking point for titanium. This one comes in at $340, including the 3 base plates, and this already has a mirror polish on it. So very significant, especially considering the other metal type options that are out there. For instance, the exact same razor in aluminum comes out at $70. This I would consider just a premium version of that, premium product. If you have it in aluminum and you love it, then you would want to consider it. If this is your first time trying out this particular razor, I would recommend starting off with a more affordable metal first, finding out if the head geometry and the design of the razor itself work really well for you. And if it does, then like me, you're going to want to upgrade. So I think the main consideration for anyone looking into this razor is probably going to come down to price. So as with all titanium razors, it's priced at a premium. This particular one is priced at $340, but includes 3 base plate options and has this fantastic mirror finish. So yes, that's a lot of money, but considering all you're getting, I still think it's a really good value within the titanium razor space. So just a couple other ones I would compare it to in terms of price, that is. One, Blackland Blackbird. This is the one that I have, obviously. If you were to get this in the exact same configuration, which is this satin finish, single base plate, it's $340 there. So same $340, but doesn't have the extra base plates and also doesn't have the same mirror finish. If you were to opt for the polished version, it jumps up to $440. So it's a whole extra $100 for the polished version. And then if you were to add an additional base plate, whether it's the light or the open comb, you're looking at $125 to $140, depending on if you get it polished. So right out of the gates, I would say the OliWorks is winning on the pricing front. And to be honest with you, in terms of machining quality, like this one is, second to none also. Both of these are fantastic, top notch, and I can't point out any faults. Yet somehow they're delivering this at a much more affordable value for what you're getting. Another titanium razor I can point out as well, titanium timeless is another really popular option. With the timeless, the pricing is $250, I believe, for just a standard single base plate option. If you opt for it to be polished, you're looking at $300 at that point. And then if you were to consider adding on any base plate options, again, the base plate's similar to the Blackbird pricing, where you're looking at about 120 up to 140, depending on if you get a polish. With the timeless, they have 3 different blade gap options. So they have the 0.68, 0.95 slim plate, and then you can also get straight bar, scalloped, open comb. Number of options there on that front. Downside, in my opinion, is you have to buy them individually to try them out. If you end up knowing exactly which gap and which configuration you want, yes, you can go home with the titanium razor at around that $250 to $300 range. But if you're gonna experiment and even go up to looking at 2 base plates, now you're well over the cost of this one that already included all 3. So that's just something to keep in mind there. Another really popular titanium one I'll mention is the Henson. That one goes for $250, and then they have the 3 different blade gap options. So they have the mild, medium, and then their aggressive version. And that's another one where if you wanted to add on another base plate, I don't know if that's an option. I've never heard of anyone being able to do that. But kind of like I was recommending, I wouldn't recommend jumping immediately to any specific titanium razor. Try out those razors in a more affordable metal first. So if you were tried out all the Hensons and knew exactly which one was your favorite and opted for the titanium, I feel like that's the exact market they were designing that razor for. And then similarly with this one, I would say try their aluminum first, and then once you love their aluminum, then we can move on to this titanium. But if for whatever reason the gap or the design doesn't quite mesh with you, don't find that out with a $300 razor. I would say that both OliWorks, Blackland, and Timeless have their 30-day return policies. So you can buy the razor, and if for whatever reason it doesn't work out, all these companies are fantastic. OliWorks especially has fantastic customer service. So if you run into any issues, pretty sure they'll be able to take care of you in a short time. With that, I kind of wanted to just jump into my experience with this. I've used this, got this last week, and I've already used all 3 of the base plates a few times over now. And it was exactly what I was expecting and exactly what I was hoping for, which was a very similar shave experience to the aluminum version, but also just with a little bit better feel in the hand, more premium feeling. Again, the shave performance is about the same as the aluminum, but the experience gets bumped up with this more premium metal, in my opinion. Last month, I released a video listing out my top 5 personal favorite razors, and I had the Meteorite aluminum at the number 3 spot. Now having this titanium one, again, just with the more premium feel in the hand and more substantial feel, this is probably fighting for that number 1 spot for me. So it's either number 1 or it's tied for number 1 for me personally. This has actually just lived up to the expectations in the short week that I've had it. So with that, I'm gonna call this job well done. I'll see you guys on the next one.